Thankfully, you've been collecting energy ever since your very first day here, never missing a single day. My role is to encourage you to collect the proper amount of energy each day, sometimes by nagging and sometimes by encouraging you with praise. It must have been hard to adapt to the corporation, but you tried your best to extract the energy, along with bearing the numerous sacrifices along the way. It was also my role to butter you up with plain words to help you avoid sinking into the pit of guilt. This part was particularly irritating because being your nanny wasn't in my programming, but we still were able to fulfill our roles anyhow. You might have noticed this earlier if you ever took a moment to look deeper into this company. But the pipelines used to transmit energy to the outside haven't worked in for a long time. Right now they are very rusty. This means the energy collected from our branch is excluded from the total energy collected by Lobotomy Corporation. Isn't it fascinating? Don't be too upset. I'm not saying that all the energy you collected is for nothing. Well, now there is one more thing for you to find out. Where does all that energy go? Welcome, A. I missed you dearly. I have been waiting for you ever since the first day I started working here. Do you remember this ocean? You said that this place is where everything from all rivers and streams will eventually settle. As such, at the lowest layers, everything sinks. Hokma is B. And B died, if you recall, on like day 18, and he ended up in Hokma, I guess. What do you think of this heaven, painted laboriously white with plaster? I knew you would come here soon. Please think of it as my welcoming gift to you. I figured that what you longed to see may have been something else than what I have become now. Time is like a scythe. It relentlessly attempts to trim, divide, and cleave in twain the clasped together hands of those you love. Everyone I had loved is now gone, leaving me, a tired old man, behind. Please do not blame yourself. Back then were the brightest moments of my life. The only thing I regret to this day was that I was too scared. I ran away without keeping my abiding promise to you till the very end. However, you eventually found me and helped me to fulfill my promise here. How could I ever be more thankful than I am right now? You're just too kind to me, kind to the very end. We just have to, for the Hokma's missions are all about having a certain number of employees with a certain level of stat. And since we've been keeping our training on track, they'll all be very, very easy. This first mission is to clear the day with 3 or more employees with Fortitude 100 or higher. Almost all of our employees have that. I have to choose if I want to expand record or extraction, and they're both pretty much the same in my eyes. It just matters that they're opened up in a 2-3 or a 3-2. I think I'll switch. It doesn't really matter where it goes. I'll just switch back to Bina. Actually, wait, no, I definitely want to do Bina first because I want to get her upgrade ASAP. So Bina's upgrades, 2 of them I don't really care about. 25% of her chance of recovering ego when an agent dies. We just reset when an agent dies. Take that, Bina. Improve the chance of gathering ego gifts. I would like this, but it's not really that helpful. Reroll abnormality selection. I will use this as a reroll in case I roll something I don't want. I will just hit the button. I'll get 3 new abnormalities to choose from. This makes getting the abnormalities you're trying to do very helpful. It only works once per day, but like usually they'll show up. Right now, all we care about is getting good equipment, and this will make getting good equipment easier. Although we did just get an 11, so that is lucky. Welcome back to the Lobotomy Corporation. We're doing sephirot suppression. The central team is pretty large. They have just been scattered throughout the facility. We have 3 of them in information, 1 in welfare, 1 in disciplinary, and 1 in records. We have a new employee in extraction. They're designed just to help with the new LF, and other than that, we're just doing the same setup for training as we have been. Joel is switching to DRV. Morty is switching to Big Bad and Whoopie Wolf, and Summer is switching to Snow White's Apple. Actually, I might want to move Summer down to welfare, now I think about it, for convenience sake. And with that, I think that's a good setup for the day. Sephirot suppression isn't super gimmicky, so we should be fine. It's not anything that requires major thought. Let's get into it. Censored is an Aleph abnormality that does black damage. It has a Quilthoth counter of 2, which lowers every time by 1 on a bad result and every time when an employee panics while working on it. Notably, it is the only abnormality in the game to use the fear damage mechanic effectively. This is something I don't think I've brought up in the Let's Play, but encountering an abnormality higher level than an employee is supposed to be working with does fear damage to them. It's 10% if it's 1 level higher, up to all of your SP bar if you're a level 1 employee sent to work in an Aleph. Censored works a bit differently though. If a level 5 employee sees Censored or works on it, they instantly lose 60% of their max SP. If a level 4 or lower employee sees it or works on it, they instantly panic. Notably, this means if you try to work Censored with level 4 or lower employee, it'll automatically breach, because its Quilthoth counter will lower by 2, 1 for the bad work result, and then 1 for the panic. While it's breaching, it will move slowly and do black damage to everything in the same room as it occasionally, and then punch things occasionally. It will also go try to crawl over corpses and convert them into smaller censoreds. This does damage to every employee in the room with weight damage, and these smaller censoreds have a similar fear effect to the large one. They do 30% to a level 5 employee instead of 60%. Notably, this means that if you let Censored eat 2 corpses, as long as it's in the same hallway as 2 small censoreds, none of your employees can fight it without instantly panicking. This is what makes it a threat while it's breaching, because it doesn't actually do that much damage for an Aleph. It only does 23 to 36. And it doesn't really have too much health, only 1,500. Alephs are kinda nasty. However, all is not lost if Censored breaches, because although I didn't get footage of it because I can't call the rabbits to extraction yet, it's not expanded enough. The rabbits don't have the fear mechanic at all, and that is Censored's primary method of attack. The rabbits are pretty much a free win button if Censored ever breaches, if you need it. She shouldn't, because, again, it only happens the first time they see it while it's breaching. So, what you can always do is send an employee in and then retreat them to have them heal in the main room, or send an employee in and then just shoot them with the SP bullets. They're normally worse than shields, but this is a situation where they're very helpful. Censored work types are very unique because it highly rewards having an employee with a level 1 stat, especially level 1 insight. However, you need them to be level 5 overall to outwork on it at all. It's not really a great trainer, none of the Alephs are great trainers, but if you wanted to do anything with training, it's best for insight. The ideal Censored work buddy, if you want to work at 1 time each meltdown level, which is a pretty slow way of working it, it's too risky in my opinion to do more than that, is someone wearing a suit that has high black resist with level 1 insight. That's one of the ways you can work with it. The other way, safely, the other way is using a tool that we haven't seen yet, and you can work as many times as you need. It makes it a lot easier to manage. And the other way is just power through it with an employee with a really good suit. We can do that because we have the Twilight suit. Censored doesn't have a suit at all, which is kind of sad, but its weapon is very good. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but every time you get hit, you recover 40% of the damage you took. This makes it an excellent tanking weapon, and it's very good to put on your welfare captain, because they already have good tanking stats. Overall, like most Alephs, Censored is fairly difficult to work, but the rewards for working it are excellent. Censored also has a special work type called Sacrifice. This is completely useless, as it sacrifices an employee to raise its Quilthoth counter by a grand total of 1. This is never really that useful. Censored isn't really even that difficult of a suppression. I don't really know the point of having this special work type at all. I guess the animation's kinda cool to see. 3 start. So for Tifereth's suppression, because of the way her gimmick works, I decided to start midway through. Also, it's really long, so I decided to start midway through. Essentially, what Tifereth does is she disables all immunity to meltdowns in every department, so all of our awards, half of our awards for the previous departments are just completely useless for this one suppression. That means that the entire upper layer can melt down again, even though they weren't able to before. And also, Tifreths can melt down, even though normally the one department that's melting down cannot normally experience Quothoth meltdowns. I used the word meltdown like 5 times, but hopefully you got what I meant. Basically, things like the Dreaming Current can have Quothoth meltdowns, even though normally the department that's having a Sephirot meltdown can't experience Quothoth meltdowns. But that's not really that bad of a gimmick, because the upper layer has like primarily H's and Teths usually, so there's really nothing dangerous up there by this point. Like, the riskiest thing to work with is probably Nameless Fetus, and that's pretty safe to work by now. I can just throw Bong Bong at it whenever it melts down. The real danger of Tifreths is that for first-time playthroughs, it does force you to go very long. Tifreths only ends at the start of Meltdown level 10. That means you have to at least spawn in a Midnight, and all the Midnights attack department-wide and are very annoying to deal with. Or would be very annoying to ignore and just not deal with, is what I meant to say. Because I don't think the Amber's that hard to... Well, I guess it's kind of annoying to deal with. I guess that's kind of accurate. Whatever. They attack with department-wide, basically, and they're not worth ignoring. So many people, because Gebura's suppress 3 different Alephs missions is very difficult to finish. This ends up being a lot of people's first experience with a Midnight at all. And Midnights are pretty tough if you're fighting them blind. And that is kind of what the main difficulty of Tifreths is, just going along and seeing a Midnight. But we've already beaten a Midnight, so Tifreth is just a normal day with some extra meltdowns. It's really not that bad. I consider it harder than Yasod's, but easier than Malkuth's. That's where it is in my ranking of the meltdowns. It's really... she doesn't do much to oppose you. Like, oh no, Spider Bud can melt down. What a threat. Question mark. And yeah, we're seeing a lot of meltdowns, but we can still pause and just deal with them as normal. It's really not that big of a deal, ultimately. And that's why Tifreths is weird, because ultimately she just doesn't throw much obstacles in your path. Really, the biggest new obstacle today is just the fact that we have an Aleph now. And Censored's a bit of a pain to work with if it's your first Aleph, or it's... luckily it's not. We have Marie, she can power through working with it with her raw stats. And then we also have Quinn, the new hire, as the work buddy for it. Although, earlier in the day, I believe, and at my first attempt, Quinn did have some issues working with Censored. Even with the... I think it's around a 90% chance to succeed, because it caps out around there. Quinn can still fail, and that means Quinn will go insane, because they have like 30 prudence or so, probably less than that. It means they're not very stable if they do fail. It also means that they're probably going to cap prudence state, because the lefts do give good rewards for working with them. The only reason I said they're not good trainers in the prudence and the not the prudence, in the details for Censored is just because a lot of the time their stat requirements are kind of prohibitively high to use them for training. Like, you need to either wear suits that have high stat requirements to be able to tank their damage, or you need to be able to just have high stats to work on them in the first place. Like, there are lefts that have stat ceiling or stat floors of 5 in their stat to work on them, and you might know that 5 is the highest a stat can go, and they require 5s and 2 stats, and those are the stats they primarily would train. It's difficult to discuss more without just saying what they do. We've seen one of them in the department abnormality selection once, but not the other one. Not the one I want. Out of those two more. Although the purpose I want this weapon for, hopefully able to go without it, it will make a specific part of something that I was planning on doing tomorrow take it really long, but we should be fine. Question mark. Anyway, this is the whole thing about Sephiroths. Just basically a normal day, but really long. And with a lot more meltdowns. As I was saying earlier, we've got the standard newbies on training, and Zhong Sangman is working with Dream and Current. This is to both make sure someone's there to cover it when it melts down, and also just because Zhong Sangman has 2 in Justice, and this is a good time to raise it up to 5. All-around helpers HG level suit. It's not really great, but I mean, it replaced Teth, so it's better than nothing, I guess. I literally forgot about all-around helper's weapon too, although I don't really think it'll be doing much. It's like, okay, it's a chainsaw. I'm never sure exactly how it works. I think it works similar to the robot, the Green Noon, but I don't know. There's only the one copy. I never really pay much attention to the non-LF weapons, how they work. When there's so many meltdowns going on at once, I tend to play a little slow because I'm making sure I'm not missing them. Although for the tools, my strategy kind of shifts from my standard day to action, and I'm just ignoring them in the Sephiroth meltdown. It's not really worth it, in my opinion, to keep working on tools. They are like, if I worked on what's it called? Shelter from 27th of March, that would have a really good chance of just screwing me over and releasing something dangerous, like censored, even though I could probably handle censored breaching. Anyway. So this is the green dusk. This is the last color of dusk we have to cover. Somehow we've seen all the dusks before seeing the, even though we haven't been spawning dusks, except on the days where we have to, before we've seen all the noons. Because there's a secret noon color that we unlocked on day 26 that has literally only popped up on my failures. Whatever. This is the dusk I was nervous about on day 21. It spawns in, I believe, 3 at the earliest, and now it's 4 of these green dusk entities, which are basically big boxes. They're listed as a wall, but they have left level defenses, but they die pretty fast to our employees now because we are decently geared up. We're definitely past the threat level of green dusk. Really, right now, the most dangerous dusk is amber, just because it does a lot of damage. As is typical for long days, I'm kind of wiping out clerks just to make sure that Big Bird and Clouded Monk won't be able to breach. I was saving welfare for later because welfare clerks give you more bullets, and more bullets is good. It gives you all more opportunities to heal and shield if you need it. But then the dusk spawned welfare, so I just got rid of them. Only one of the dusks spawned in the upper layer, which is a bit sad because upper layer has more elevators and better hallway organization because there's no central department there. It makes it a bit easier to engage in the upper layer. And then bottom layer is probably the worst to engage right now because the 2 departments are so far apart. But it's not awful to fight in, it's just the 2 departments are just one big hallway. At least there are elevators there in good spots. That's the one problem with middle layer, is that the only elevators are on like the exact outer edge of middle layer. And they're there for bottom layer too, but bottom layer is also split into 2 outer edges. It's weirdly designed. Anyway, the green dusks, what they do is they will poop out green dawns and noons. The real threat level of green dusk is just them pooping out 3 green noons on top of your agents and massacring them with the chainsaw, but green noons aren't really a threat anymore, and consequently green dusk is not a threat anymore. And that's basically how it works. The green dawn was never a threat, so those are still not a threat. I think literally any one of our agents could solo a green dawn right now. And since we're just having a massive army go and fight the factories, it's not really a problem at all. Fun fact, I failed for some reason. I did not think there were 4 factories. I thought there were 3. There is the one that spawned an extraction. I had not noticed it by this point. This is me being confused that the ordeal isn't over. And then I see a couple wandering robots. And then, soon, I should finally notice, yep, there's the one in extraction. So we had one spawn, I believe around information and safety. One spawn in central, one spawn in welfare, and one spawn in extraction. And those are the dudes. I guess the one nice thing about Tifereth is that even though it makes you go long, you don't have to spend time shooting all the central clerks, which probably takes a bit. Because they already aren't there, because the department that is undergoing a Sephiroth meltdown will not spawn in clerks. How convenient. That's like 20 less deaths I have to intentionally cause. And with that, that's the last green dusk down. We just have to mop up the rest of the noons and dawns, and then the ordeal will end. But they're not really a threat at all anymore. Back on day 11, the green noon ordeal would have like destroyed us, but this is like several times more noons than we would have seen then, and it's not really that bad anymore. And that's what we like to call we have significantly better stats and equipment than we did on day 11. Although, I mean, you could have this stuff on day 11 if you got this far and then reset back to day 1, because you do keep your mission progress and equipment when you're resetting. You just lose equipment if your agent dies. But I don't like resetting back to day 1. I just find it more satisfying to complete everything in as few resets as possible. Which, I mean, is not really great, considering that I haven't historically done very well with resetting. We're like almost up to the day number in resets. Green dusk is over. There's just one ordeal left for today, and that is the midnight. And then after dusk, of course, I just kind of reassign everyone back to where they were. But now it's time to prepare for midnight. Because the midnight we got is the one really hard one, Violet Midnight. It's probably the 3rd hardest of the abnormality/ordeal fights in the game. Just because there are other fights that aren't really... it's hard for me to classify them as those 2 types. You should see what I mean soon. So, Violet Midnight kind of forces you to do the annoying divide all your agents depending on what type of damage they deal thing that I don't really like to do. I mean, I'm pretty sure that sentence is pretty self-explanatory, but it spawns in 4 entities, and they each absorb the element that they deal. Similar to Apocalypse Bird with one more target. And that means you have to go through your entire facility and go look at everyone and see what weapon they have and divide them into 4 teams, as is well, actually 3 teams, because there's not enough pale weapons to make a separate pale team. I should probably put them in one of the other teams. And then there's another reason for that, which you will see when the ordeal actually spawns in. But right now, it's agent sorting time. I'm using the 3 elevators near the inside of the training information branch. One is for red, one is for white, and then one is for black, and I believe I put the black and pale or the red and pale together. I'm not really sure exactly which one it was. And I'm counting Twilight as a pale weapon for the purpose of this, even though it does all 4 damage types. That is the one weakness of Twilight, in that things that absorb an element type... Twilight is by far the best weapon for DPS, but if something absorbs one of its 4 damage types, it's not quite as good as it normally is. It's still really strong, though. I believe every single time it swings, it's all 4 damage types, and it does 4 hits, 1 for each damage type, but I don't know. The damage type might just be random for each hit. I never pay that much attention because there's a lot of numbers coming out at once for every time. This is the first time I've had it. But I've seen it in action before, as I've said. As a side note, I haven't really scrolled the camera over it too much, but I really like Tifereth's meltdown look. The giant mountain of Tifereths just looks quite nice. And behind it. It really helps you visualize the scale of how many times Sephiroth has died and has been reborn. It's probably one of my favorite meltdown looks is Sephiroth's. Sephiroth is not one of my favorite Sephiroth. I don't really like either of them that much in this game. I don't know, they're alright. I like all the Sephiroth, I just don't really like Sephiroth as much as the other ones. Some of the other ones. Action-packed employee sorting. It takes a while because we have like 30 employees, and I have to go scroll over to each one and do them one at a time. Just make sure they're properly associated with their damage type. It's very important that you do this just so that the ordeal can go relatively painlessly. It'll take a bit either way, which is why the footage has been gone into chipmunk mode again. It's been sped up by over 3 times its normal speed, just because I do not think the fight is particularly interesting. It takes a bit. There's a lot going on, but I don't know. I find a lot of the Midnights just take a while to fight, and it's the same action repeatedly. Like, you saw the Amber Midnight, you know what I mean? Well, hopefully you saw the Amber Midnight. We're being careful when we spawn it in. I want to only have like 1 person working, and that's why I chose Among Us, because he's pretty close to the elevator. For red. We want to spend as little time as possible waiting for people to get back from works. Although I guess we could work with a Zayan. I don't know, all the Zayans are too far away. That's why I chose Void Dream for this, because Void Dream is literally right next to an elevator. I could have also gone with Today's Shy Look, but we've seen a lot of Today's Shy Look works in the recent episodes just because of Among Us. And with that, we have Purple Midnight spawning in, aka the God Illusion, aka really annoying to fight. There are 4 monuments, 1 for each color. That means there's a white monument, a black monument, a pale monument, and a red monument. And each of these controls an attack that does the damage type associated with said monument. So, because pale damage, most of the suits in the game are weak to it. That makes the pale damage monument already the highest priority target. Luckily, the pale damage monument is also really frustrating to fight because its attack does not work the same way as the other ones. Basically, the way that their attacks work is that they will spawn in a portal that has some sort of appendage coming out of it. And then you have a limited amount of time to move your employees out of the way of said portal before it comes out and attacks. Except for the pale monument, which has that's little pale eye has been flying around. And that just means whatever hallway the eye is behind it'll do a constant pale damage to. And pale damage be dangerous. It's also more difficult to dodge, and also, because when you take damage from your weakness, you slow down. It means employees caught in the center of a hallway where the pale damage monument spawns might just die outright. We don't have pale shield bullets right now. We do have heal bullets, which would work, though, from saving them, if we need to. You might also notice that the white monument attack is far bigger than the rest. That makes the white monument the second highest priority threat, behind the pale monument. And the red and black are just there. They're equal threats in my eyes. They attack narrower than white and pale, and they're a lot easier to dodge, so it makes them less of a threat. But right now, I've been having, the rabbits are fighting the pale monument. I called them in because that's just how I deal with the pale monument, is just have the rabbits do it. And the rest of the employees are also fighting. I believe. The black monument. The white monument. I said black. But after you damage a monument for a certain amount of HP, it enters a counterattack state. For the pale, this means the eye is automatically called to where the pale monument is. And then for the white, black, and red, it makes 2 portals of that damage type spawn near the monument, and then you have the same amount of time to get out before they attack. This is pretty dangerous for the white, but it's not that bad for the other ones. Pale monument is literally in the white hallway now. That's great. again, normally there will be an elevator or something you can get out of the way of where they spawn. They're always in hallways, not main rooms. And normally there's an easy way to get out to it, like another floor by the hallways. There's always a lot going on in this, and there's a lot to dodge. I mean, there's a lot. Consequently, there's a lot of pausing going on. Everyone who couldn't tank 2 hits and from a monument was placed in a separate elevator, by the way. I believe. They're the ones I keep pausing to dodge with. The rabbit's finished with the pale monument. It's gone. White and red and black are still alive, but once white goes down, the rotation shouldn't take us that long because a lot of the pausing is just to dodge the white tentacles. I have a really hard time visualizing where they'll hit. And with that, white is dead. Black and red just hit in straight lines. They're a lot easier to dodge, and they cover less surface area than the white, so they're a lot easier to dodge. White is just really annoying. Luckily, there shouldn't be major problems with the rest of them. And I'm saying that just because, again, they hit in straight lines. But also, I think I've been pretty confident with my midnight handling skills. We have to redivide them back into damage colors because I mixed the red and black and pale teams to fight the white. And if the black team tries to fight the black, they will heal it, and the fight will take way longer. Also, we have a lot of black weapons, so I might even be able to damage it. I don't know. I'm not gonna take that risk. But we are ready to fight the black now. The white team moved in and is fighting it currently. And meanwhile, the black team can advance on the red monument. And the red monument is actually weak to black damage, which makes the black team an ideal team to fight it, because it'll take 1.2 damage from all their attacks. Well, unless they're attacking with HE or lower weapons, because they'll be taking, I don't know, damage less than that. But this is just cleanup time. The rest of them will take not that long to fight. It's really just the white and the pale that are the major threats here. The other two are just kind of there. Normally the way I lose to the Violet Midnight involves the white tentacle hitting a whole stack of people in the elevator at once and causing everyone to go insane. Because when an agent loses their mind, you take fear damage, and that does damage to your SP, which you just took a big tentacle hit to the face with. And then a bunch of people take fear damage at once, and they all go insane. That's how I normally lose to Midnight. I've also lost to the counterattack of the Black Monument once, because I just messed up. But with Midnight down, we're in cleanup mode for Sephirot suppression. There's nothing left that's a threat here on this day. It would be pretty difficult to lose from this position. I mean, it's still certainly possible. This is Lobotomy Corporation. Dumb stuff happens. This is not my first attempt on this day. It's my second. My first attempt was kind of filled with, man, this really is Lobotomy Corporation moments. Censored breached. A million other things happened. It was pretty chaotic and crazy. This run was pretty much just fine and not that bad compared to that mess. It very much just was, things happened and I messed up and a lot of people died day. By a lot of people, I mean only one person died. The situation was able to get back under control after a bit, but in the end, it was just not worth, the one death that I had, and possibly more because I didn't make it to midnight. The death happened at noon, so I mean, it certainly could have involved more deaths at midnight. But we've done the hardest midnight by this point. There's one other midnight that we haven't seen yet, and it is universally considered the easiest midnight by most people, but I have literally never done it before. It just never spawned in my first playthrough. Because I don't normally, in case you haven't noticed, I don't normally go past dusk. I know I always go past dawn because you have to. I don't normally go past dusk, much less see midnight. There's, I believe, one more day where we'll have to see a midnight, and we might see it then. Otherwise, I guess we'll never see it in the Let's Play. Suffice to say, it is not a very big threat. much like Tifereth's meltdown, which is now over. And once again, Fool S. And then here's the failed attempt of the day. This is the noon that we haven't seen yet in the Let's Play. I won't really go over what it does right now, just because, again, we haven't seen it. Actually, I probably should, now that I think about it. So this is Indigo Noon, this is the secret one. On day 26, these are sweepers, by the way. These are an actual entity in the game's universe. They've been described a bit in Tifereth's story segments, and then I believe also in Gebera's. But they basically they walk around at night in the back streets and kill people. That's what Lobotomy Corp tells you about what they do. They're the only ordeal that's an actual entity in the lore. But in this game, they spawn in several packs across the facility, and they move as groups. Not really, though. They move around, and they do black damage in similar quantities to maybe a bit more than Green Noon. I don't know. They hit one target at once. Annoyingly, they have a second tactic where if they see a corpse, they will eat it and restore their HP to full. And they just killed Corbinian. Also, they damage themselves a little with each attack. They are meant to regenerate HP, but it's a glitch. That's basically Indigo Noon. And a failure. Alright, so we've had decent growths, but pretty much everyone who was working on something the entire day capped, or in the case of Zhong Sang Min, got literally 99 in the stat they were working on. As to expect when you go all the way to meltdown level, the start of meltdown level 10. Not really that much to know otherwise. Hopefully Censored won't be too much of an issue to work now that we have its weapon, which is a very good tanking weapon. Other than that, we can just move on and select another abnormality. Yeah. I still want more LFs, because all I care about now is gear. TO909, do you remember this mill? Oh wait, these are all tools. I forgot this is a tool day. Never mind, I can't get an LF here. There are no LF tools, and I wouldn't want any even if there were. Do you remember this melody? The professor used to play this song when the students were sleepy. Happy birthday. This is a teth. It has a negligible effect. T977, excessive aspiration bring about unwanted frenzy. I think this is a teth. It is a negligible effect. TO990, save us now and forevermore, the truth shall set us free. This is I think it's an HE, might be a wall. This one is probably the most useful because it makes working with Censored specifically a lot easier. It's pretty useless if you don't have Censored. Whatever, rolling time. Oh, I actually rolled a 3. I will take it. And now it is time for static or noise or whatever 1.76 megahertz is supposed to be. Lore. This abnormality is a phenomenon with no visible form. It was discovered when employees began to exhibit shared symptoms when entering a specific area of the facility. They all suffered hallucinations of a specific nature, and their mental corruption increased. After setting a radio's frequency to 1.76 megahertz, we waited. Following 12 minutes, a mysterious voice was heard through static. It was difficult to make out what it was saying, but appeared to be in distress and was asking for help. 17 minutes in, the voice stopped and 3 loud explosions were heard, which were then followed by 2 smaller explosions. It can be explained that it can be assumed that the situation with the voices in was chaotic, as based on the various levels of screaming that could be heard. 23 minutes in, all was silent. Once 25 minutes passed, the radio began to emit smoke. We thought the machine had been fried, but no fault could be found. Continuing past 30 minutes, everyone in the area was suddenly filled with rage and started to exhibit the desire to assault one another with extreme aggression. Following the incident, all the employees who took part refused to seek counseling. We couldn't make it mandatory as no one was injured. It is still unknown what caused the collective rage. Afterwards, unknown noises and hallucinations started to occur near the containment unit. This is a recording of a day we must never forget. It brings us to a chaotic place, forgotten by many, that must never be forgotten. What a beautiful story. Every containment unit is under my reign. The song, Tifereth's Dirge, it's for him, Tifereth. I hope this performance and song will appease our souls. We are 2, but 1. Do you know what this means? The central department is quite big. Everyone who works there has their hands full. Is it time for yet another replacement? Time to head to storage, then. Did Tifereth get what he wanted at the end of all this? No. Just what were you looking for in the first place? Don't stand there looking at me like that with your forlorn smile. I've already abandoned you. I wish to walk with you again to Fereth with the sound of the waves behind us. If this song of mine that you can hear right now is a dirge to you, when he returns, could you show Tifereth how I've grown? Will you show him how strong I am now? You said that something good will happen next time. Was all of this really worth it?